Tonight, CIA's confessions about its closest ally, as it speculates about Israel's intent to strike Iran's nuclear program, without any intention of objecting to Israel's transgression, and the locals of a Chinese town up against the police as it plans to demolish a 13th century mosque. We cover stories about Elon Musk's new brain chips and expected clinical trials, the Canadian government recognizing the Chinese Immigration Act as historically significant, and South Africa adding sign language into its constitution. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Catherine Bullock. A top secret intelligence report leaked earlier this year reveals that the CIA is not sure if Israel actually intends to attack Iran's nuclear program or if it's just talking tough. The intelligence report produced by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence notes that on February 20th, Israel conducted a large-scale air exercise. The report speculates that the exercise was, quote, probably to simulate a strike on Iran's nuclear program. The US and Israeli military have jointly conducted several exercises in recent months. The Pentagon proudly bills one of them as the largest in history. The report mentions that Netanyahu probably thinks that the only way to deter Iran's nuclear program is to strike it, especially as there are declining military options to stop Iran's enrichment program. The CIA apparently says it does not know whether the strike threats are real or just tough talk. But the White House has shown no signs of opposition to Israel's increasing threats to Iran. In fact, recently, Biden's national security advisor has hinted at its approval. Earlier this month, the advisor said that the US had made it clear to Iran that they can never obtain a nuclear weapon. He said President Biden will take actions to stand by this statement, including by recognizing Israel's freedom of action. The executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft says Biden has shifted America's policy on Israeli military action against Iran. She says previous administrations made it clear to Israel that it was not to attack Iran and drag the US into a war. She calls the new policy shift dangerous. And in related news, US President Joe Biden has announced the first ever national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. The news comes after mounting pressure on the US government to adopt a definition for anti-Semitism. Biden's new strategy stops short of the demand by Zionist groups to accept a definition that mainly focuses on the state of Israel. A statement released by the White House says the anti-Semitism strategy includes over 100 new actions the administration will take to raise awareness of anti-Semitism and its threat to American democracy. It says it will protect Jewish communities, reverse the normalization of anti-Semitism, and build cross-community solidarity. The US has experienced an alarming increase in anti-Semitic incidents along with other forms of hate-motivated crimes. In order to develop the strategy, Biden had established the Interagency Policy Committee on Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and related forms of bias and discrimination. The committee is led by White House Domestic Policy Council and the National Security Council. The national strategy proposes a whole-of-society plan that both meets the current escalation of hatred and lays the foundation for reducing anti-Semitism over time. The Chinese police in Yunnan province have given protesters an ultimatum to turn themselves in for what the police call criminal acts and disrupting social order. The news comes after protesters clashed with the police over the weekend to stop the demolition of a 13th century mosque in the mostly Muslim town of Nagu in Yunnan province. Yunnan is in southwest China and is home to a predominantly Muslim ethnic group called the Hui. This past Saturday, a large number of police officers were deployed in Nagu. Officers throwing truncheons and riot shields pushed back a defiant crowd that was throwing objects at them. Many of the crowd were arrested. The town officials are pushing ahead with court orders to demolish the 4 minarets and dome roof of the mosque, which had been added to the mosque in the past few years. A local woman told a media source that the officials want to raise the mosque. She said the mosque is home for Muslims and they would not let them knock it down. Under President Xi Jinping's rule, the Communist Party is attempting to sinicize China's religious and ethnic minorities. Many mosques are being demolished or altered to fit official views of Chinese aesthetics. You can now have a chip implanted in your brain. This is because Elon Musk's brain implant company, Neuralink, says US regulators have allowed it to start testing the device in people. The company made the announcement this past Thursday via Twitter. It has, however, not provided details about the potential study. Neuralink is among several companies working on linking the nervous system to computers. The effort is meant to treat brain disorders and overcome brain injuries. Musk says the device will be used to restore vision and help in agility. The device is about the size of a large coin. It will be implanted in the skull, and ultra-thin wires will go directly into the brain. In December, Musk said his team was in discussion with the regulators on how to test the Neuralink device. For now, it is unclear how safe the devices are and how the interface will work. Please stay tuned. We will be back after a short break. Minister for Parks Canada, Stephen Guilbeault, says the federal government is designating a 100-year-old ban on Chinese immigration as an event of historical significance. On the 1st of July in 1923, the Canadian government introduced the infamous Chinese Immigration Act, which banned Chinese people from entering Canada. The act, also known as the Chinese Exclusion Act, saw white hostility at its peak against Chinese immigrants in the post-war era. The act was passed on the same date as Dominion Day celebrations. The Chinese community referred to it as Humiliation Day. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, while speaking at an Asian Heritage Month reception, said the ban was immoral and unfair. Trudeau says a government plaque will be commissioned to recognise those events. He says they will serve as a reminder of how far Canada has come. Trudeau says similar examples from the past show that Canadian diversity has not always been its strength. He says it took a lot of work and determination to change. Muslim advocacy groups are calling for cinemas and streaming services to refuse to screen the controversial Indian film The Kerala Story. The groups argue the ruling Indian Bharatiya Janata Party is again using the Indian film platform to push anti-Muslim hate. The film fabricates the tale of 3 Hindu and Christian women recruited by the Islamic State group, or ISIS. The story plot shows the women residing in the Indian state of Kerala and being seduced by Muslim men with malicious intentions. The women are brainwashed by the men. One of them accepts Islam and then joins the ranks of ISIS. The movie has received sharp criticism from international cinema experts for promoting propaganda. It has also received backlash from local cinema enthusiasts for polarizing the Indian population. The movie has been pulled down from UK cinemas. Justice for All Canada's executive director says that the movie is dangerous, especially in a country where the NGO's Genocide Watch has said, quote, that propaganda contributes to early genocidal stages of Indian Muslims. This month, South Africa's parliament has voted for an amendment to the constitution that adds sign language as an official language. The moment is historic for the country, which the World Bank dubs as the most unequal country in terms of race. The country embraced democracy 3 decades ago. Since then, there has been an outcry from human rights activists over the exclusion of people with hearing disabilities from society. This month's change to the Constitution is the result of constant lobbying and litigation by these groups. The campaign gained more momentum when a high school student filed a case against the government in 2009. He demanded that sign language be recognized and that he be provided sign language in the subjects he was pursuing. The court ruled in favor of the student. Although the South African Schools Act had recognized sign language around 1996, it was not a part of the Constitution. Education officials had an option to either provide it or disregard it, depending on their budget. At the memorial service for Nelson Mandela in Johannesburg in 2013, a fake sign language interpreter can be seen standing next to the then US President Barack Obama. However, the untiring efforts by deaf advocacy groups has finally made the South African government realize the need for inclusion and diversity. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Sound Vision, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.